Knockout roses were supposed to end all your rose problems. That was the whole promise when they arrived. Finally, a rose you did not have to fuss over. No constant spraying, no deadheading, no coddling. Disease-resistant, self-cleaning, blooms from spring to frost. Just plant it and walk away. And that promise is most of the reason there is a knockout rose in something like every third front yard in America. But here is what almost nobody tells you. That promise is the exact thing that gets these roses into trouble. Because people hear no maintenance, and they believe it completely, in one of two opposite directions, and both of them end badly. Some people take no maintenance as a challenge to prove they still care, so they fuss over their knockouts like old-fashioned roses, out there every weekend, snipping off every single faded bloom by hand. And I am going to tell you in a moment why that specific job is a genuine waste of your Saturday. And the far bigger group takes no maintenance, literally. They never touch the plant at all, ever. And in 2 or 3 years, that tidy little shrub has become a leggy, woody, overgrown monster, blooming only at the very tips, with a dead, congested tangle in the middle, and a real problem brewing that they cannot see. The truth about knockouts is not no maintenance. It is low maintenance, but different maintenance. There is one job they need in the summer, and it takes about 10 minutes. And it is not the job most people are doing. And there is something else. While you are doing that 10-minute job, you need to be looking for something. Because there is a disease going around that specifically hunts these roses, that is 100% fatal, that has no cure whatsoever, and that summer is the prime season for. And catching it early is the difference between losing one plant and losing every rose you own. By the end of this video, you will know the one thing to do, the one thing to stop wasting your time on, and the one thing to look for that could save your whole garden. But first, let me clear up what these roses actually are. So let's clear up what a knockout rose actually is, because the marketing did these plants a strange disservice. It made them sound like a garden ornament you could treat like a plastic one. And they are not. They are a living, vigorous shrub that happens to need less from you than an old-fashioned rose. Less is not nothing. Start with the single most useful thing to understand, because it saves you real labor. Knockout roses are self-cleaning. That is a specific horticultural term, and it means the plant drops its own spent flowers and produces new blooms on its own, without you removing the old ones. And this is not marketing fluff. It is true. Knockouts will repeat bloom from spring right through to frost, whether you deadhead them or not. So to that first group, the diligent deadheaders out there every weekend snipping off faded flowers one at a time, hear this clearly. You do not have to do that. The plant does not need it. Deadheading a knockout might speed the next flush of blooms by a few days, and that is genuinely the whole payoff. A few days. If you enjoy the meditative work of it, wonderful, carry on. But if you have been doing it because you thought the plant required it, you have been volunteering for a chore that does not exist. Put the snips down. But here is the catch, and it is the whole reason for this video. Self-cleaning does not mean self-maintaining. Just because the plant handles its own dead flowers does not mean it handles its own shape, or its own size, or its own health. It does not. Left completely alone, it becomes that overgrown, leggy, congested monster I described. So there is a real job here. It is just not the deadheading. And do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me how many knockouts you have, and whether they are the singles or the doubles, and roughly how old, because age changes what yours needs most. Now, here is the one job that actually matters in July. Here is the one job that matters in July. A light, mid-season cutback. You are going to take your knockout back by about a third, and it does three things at once that nothing else does. First, understand the rhythm of this plant, because the cut works with it. Knockouts bloom in cycles. Roughly every 5 to 6 weeks, they push out a big flush of flowers. That flush fades, and then they build toward the next one. And that natural pause, right after a flush fades, is your window. Because if you give the plant a light trim at that moment, you tidy away all the spent blooms in one pass, and you signal the plant to push its next flush harder and more evenly. You are not deadheading flower by flower. You are refreshing the whole shrub in one go and timing it to the plant's own cycle. Second, and this is the big one, you keep it compact. Remember that leggy monster. That does not happen because knockouts are badly behaved. It happens because they are vigorous, they grow fast, and a plant that is never cut just keeps reaching upward and outward, blooming higher and higher on barer and barer stems until the whole thing is top-heavy and hollow in the middle. A light cut a couple of times through the season keeps the plant dense, bushy, and flowering all over instead of just at the top. So here is how you do it. After a bloom flush fades, take clean, sharp pruners, or, if you have a hedge of them, hedge shears, and cut the whole plant back by about a third of its height. Shape it as you go, aiming for a nice, rounded form. And here is the part most people skip, and it matters more than the shaping. Reach into the center of the bush and thin out some of the crossing, congested, spindly growth in the middle. Anything thinner than a pencil, anything dead, anything rubbing. You are opening up the center so air can move through the plant. Hold that thought about airflow because it becomes life or death in a few minutes. 2 technical notes. When you cut a cane, glance at the cut end. If the center, the pith, is white and healthy, good. If it is brown or dead in the middle, keep cutting down that cane until you reach white, healthy wood, or remove the cane entirely. And keep your blades clean. Wipe your pruners with a disinfectant between bushes, and I am going to give you a very serious reason for that shortly. Now, one crucial thing about timing, so you do not hurt the plant. This mid-season trim is a light cut, about a third. It is not the big prune. The real hard pruning of a knockout, cutting it right down to about 12 to 18 inches from the ground, is a late winter job done in February or March while the plant is dormant before new growth starts. That hard cut is what resets the whole plant for the year, and it is why knockouts stay healthy long term. Do not do that now. In summer, light only. And whatever you do, stop cutting altogether about 2 months before your first expected frost. Because a hard cut late in the season pushes out tender new growth that gets killed by the cold and weakens the plant going into winter. So that is the job. A light cut back by a third after a flush, shaped and thinned in the middle, a couple of times through summer. 10 minutes. That is what keeps a knockout the tidy, blooming shrub you were promised, instead of the woody monster. But I told you there was something to look for while you are in there. And it is the most important part of this whole video. Quick one, because I want to name what actually goes wrong with knockouts, since it is the same thing that goes wrong with the plant I get asked about more than any other. People do not garden the plant in front of them. They garden the label. They hear "no maintenance," and they act on the slogan instead of learning what the plant actually is, and the plant pays for it. And nowhere is that worse than with hydrangeas. Because hydrangeas are not sold on a slogan, they are buried under 100 years of folklore, and almost all of it is wrong. Bury a rusty nail to turn them blue. Change the color by changing the soil. Feed them to make them bloom. People act on the folklore, confidently, and then wonder why they have a big, healthy bush and no flowers. It is the single most common gardening complaint there is, and nearly every bit of it comes from believing the myth instead of knowing the plant. So I wrote the honest version down. It is called the Hydrangea Mastery Guide. It sorts out all 6 types in 90 seconds, because that is where every mistake starts, not knowing which one you actually have. It gives you the prune by type calendar, so you stop cutting off your own flowers. It tells you the real reason the color changes, which is not the pH, whatever you were told. And it walks through the 5 myths that waste an entire season. 29 pages, $27, instant PDF, 7-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the description at waltgreer.com. And it ends the way this channel always ends. With the part "Nobody selling you something" will print. 4 of the 6 hydrangea types cannot change color at all, no matter what you pour on them. Fertilizer will never fix a hydrangea that will not bloom, because a guide that only tells you what to do is only half a guide. Now, back to your knockouts, and the thing you need to look for while you are in there, because this is the one that actually kills them. While you are in close, cutting that plant back, I want you looking for something specific. It is called rose rosette disease, and it is the single most important thing in this entire video because it is 100% fatal, it has no cure, and knockout roses are its favorite target. Here is what to look for, because early detection is the whole game. The classic sign is called witch's broom. It is a tight, dense cluster of stems and small deformed leaves all erupting from one point, like a witch's broom or a bird's nest of shoots, growing much faster than the rest of the plant. Alongside that, look for growth that is bright red and stays red, distorted, twisted leaves, stems that are abnormally thick, and, the real tell, a wildly excessive number of thorns. A cane so covered in thorns, it looks alien. If a section of your rose looks like it is mutating, growing wrong, too red, too thorny, too clustered, that is what you are looking for. Now, what causes it? Because it explains everything about how to handle it. It is a virus, and it is spread by a mite. Not a mite you will ever see. This is an Areophid mite, and it is about 1/200th of an inch long, 4 times smaller than a spider mite, completely invisible to the naked eye. It drifts on the wind from rose to rose, and it hitches rides on your clothes and on your tools. That is why I told you to disinfect your pruners between bushes. Cut an infected plant, move to the next one, and you can carry those mites and the virus right down the row. Now the hard part, and I am going to give it to you straight, because that is what we do here. There is no cure. None. You cannot spray it away, and you cannot prune it out. Do not even try, because by the time you see the symptom, the virus is already systemic throughout the whole plant. Cutting off the witch's broom does nothing. The plant is going to die, and while it dies, it is a reservoir feeding those mites to every other rose within reach. So here is what you have to do, and I know it hurts. Remove the entire plant. The whole thing, roots and all. The gentlest way is to take a large plastic bag, pull it down over the whole bush first to trap the mites so they cannot drop off and scatter. Then dig the plant out, roots included, and seal it in that bag. And then it goes in the trash, or you burn it. Do not compost it. Do not throw it on the brush pile. Do not chip it. You are trying to get those mites and that virus completely out of your garden. Now, 2 pieces of genuinely good news, because I do not want to leave you hopeless. First, the virus does not live in the soil. So once you have removed that plant and all its root pieces, you can plant a new rose in the same spot. The ground is not poisoned. Second, this is exactly why the spacing and airflow I keep mentioning matters so much. The reason knockouts get hit so hard is that they get mass planted in tight hedges, shrubs jammed together, leaves touching, and the mites simply walk from plant to plant down the whole row. One infected plant takes the entire hedge. Give your roses room so their leaves are not touching, and you make it far harder for this thing to spread. So that is the one to watch for. Check every time you are near the plant. Catch it early, pull it fast, and you might lose one rose instead of all of them. So beyond the cut and the disease check, there are a few things that keep a knockout genuinely healthy, and one of them is going to surprise you. Start with feeding, because people overdo it. Knockouts will bloom beautifully with no fertilizer at all. If you want to give them a boost, fine, but follow 2 rules. Do not feed a newly planted rose until it has established and been through its first bloom cycle. And feed with a balanced rose fertilizer only during the growing season, then stop about 2 months before your first frost, so you are not pushing tender new growth into the cold. A little is plenty. More blooms do not come from more fertilizer. They come from sun and the right cut. Now the surprise, and it goes against every old rose gardening instinct. Put the sprayer down. For generations, growing roses meant a spray schedule, fungicides and insecticides on a calendar. With knockouts, you do not need it, and it can actively backfire. These roses were bred to resist black spot and mildew, so the main reason to spray is largely gone. And here is the part almost nobody knows. Routine insecticide spraying kills the beneficial predator mites, the good bugs that eat the very mite that spreads rose rosette disease. So blanket spraying your roses can wipe out your natural defense against the one disease that actually kills them. And the sprays do not even control that mite well anyway. So do not reach for chemicals out of habit. Healthy, well-spaced, well-pruned plants are the real defense. Which brings us to the last 2, and they are simple. Sun. Knockouts need 6 to 8 hours of full sun a day. In too much shade, they grow leggy and sparse, bloom poorly, and stay damp, which invites disease. And air. Space them so the leaves of one plant are not touching the next. That single habit improves airflow, cuts down fungal problems, and, as you now know, makes it much harder for those mites to walk from plant to plant. And when you water, water at the base, at the soil, never over the leaves, because wet foliage is what fungal disease wants. So, let me pull the whole thing together. Before we finish, do one thing for me. Think of one person you know with a row of knockouts they were told would take care of themselves, who has never looked closely at them. Send them this video, just the link. There might be a witch's broom starting on one of those bushes right now, and catching it could save their whole garden. Now, here is the whole thing in one idea. The label on a knockout rose says no maintenance, and that label is what gets these roses killed. Because the plant does not need much, but it does need 3 things, and none of them is the thing most people are doing. It does not need deadheading. It is self-cleaning, so stop snipping off faded blooms by hand. That is a chore that does not exist. What it needs instead is a light cutback, by about 1/3, a couple of times through summer, after each flush fades, shaped and thinned in the middle to keep it compact and open, with the one real hard prune saved for late winter. That is the 10-minute job that keeps it a tidy shrub instead of a woody monster. It needs you to look every single time you are near it for that red, thorny, clustered, distorted growth. Because rose rosette disease has no cure, and the only thing that saves your garden is catching it early and pulling that plant, roots and all, before it takes the rest. And it needs the basics that no slogan mentions. Full sun, room to breathe with its leaves not touching its neighbors, water at the base, a light feed at most, and the sprayer left in the shed. Do those things, and a knockout genuinely is one of the easiest, most rewarding roses you can grow, blooming from spring to frost, with very little from you. Low maintenance is a real promise. It just came with an asterisk, and the asterisk is this. You have to know the 3 things it actually needs, instead of believing the label that said it needed nothing. So subscribe and stick around. We do this the honest way here in the Forgotten Knowledge Library. Real horticulture, exact amounts, and we tell you straight, including the diseases with no cure and the sprays you should not buy. It is free, and it always will be. Next time, another plant sold as effortless, and the small print nobody reads. Now go out to your knockouts, give them a light trim, and look hard at every cane while you do. I'll see you in the next one.